I love the countdown. I'm still not used to it.
I love it.
That's great.
I love the countdown. Anyway, welcome back. Welcome me back. You guys did a show.
As you're still chewing over there. Jeez, was you finishing up dinner over there, John?
I haven't had it yet. This snuck up on me.
I was pushing dinner too down my throat right before I got on here.
Turkey burgers or haddock?
Yeah.
No. Good guesses, but no.
Yeah.
Got some takeout veal parm. It wasn't cooking tonight.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you get it from Reno's in Eastie?
No, I'm up on the North Shore, so I wasn't shooting down there.
Good spot. It's a good spot. Anyway, we're just getting started, so we'll warm it up. We got a couple cool things tonight. We have an NBA champion. We also have the offseason, which has officially begun. So stuff's going to get real really fast. The draft is coming up. Free agency's coming up, and it's just going to be bang, bang, bang. So a lot's going to be determined, and we're going to learn a lot about the Celtics team pretty soon. So we've been talking about a ton. I'll let you guys catch me up. I'm sure we talked about some offseason stuff, but in terms of developing opinions, and we'll get to the NBA Finals, but I want to hold off a teeny bit on that. Where's our head at right now in terms of where the Celtics are going? Because we've been all over the map. Like 10 seconds ago, Bobby just texted, I think we got to get Fournier back. So we don't know.
It just feels like, yeah. So you want to start with Fournier?
We don't know what we're doing anymore. Things we're going to talk about for sure. Giannis and the Bucks rewriting a narrative that would have been totally different if Kyrie doesn't get hurt or KD's shoe size is half a size smaller. And it's true.
It's the way the basketball gods wanted it to be.
It's unreal, man. Think about what would have happened. Think about what would have happened there. Completely different story for sure. If they went out to Brooklyn there, and then looking at the Bucks. What do we see in the Bucks that the Celtics don't have? What do they need? Everyone wants to copy the champs, right? You're going to look at these teams that reach the finals and say, we need a little bit more of that. I always think those are overreactions. We'll get into that as well. Jason Tatum comments from a week ago. I know you guys talked about him.
We did that in locker room, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to do it a little here too. So we're going to talk a little bit. But let's just start with the Celtics. Where is our head at right now? We got Dame Lillard. We got Bradley Beal. We've got free agency looming. We've got potential trades. We've got New Orleans doesn't want Lonzo. We've got who knows what. Everything is up in the air right now. What do we want? And hi to everybody, by the way. I missed you, but what do we want these guys to do here?
It sounds like pipe dreams right there, John. You just listed them all. Like those are all the pipe dreams. And I think at the end of the day, we have to realistically start looking at these mid-level guys that we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks or so. We're hearing a lot of the same names, the McConnells and the what's the other one that Bobby had liked so much a couple weeks ago? Satoransky, who actually he's up there on my list. Actually, I'm a fan of him as well. I don't think his name gets mentioned enough, honestly. But yeah, I just think that it's not any of these sexy names that people want to hear or Celtics fans are drooling over. I think we all agree that that's more for next year. Whereas this year, call it a bridge year if you want, but I look at it more as this team trying to discover an identity and finding guys that could contribute to that, throughout this crucial offseason.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's fair to still look at next year as a bridge year because I know we'll hit on Damian Lillard a little bit, but that cooled off fast, that heat of his trade demand and him going to be out of there within a matter of days. Felt like that was really escalating to a point of no return over the weekend, and then he poured cold water all over it. So we'll see where that goes. I know Josue and Max did a whole episode about that, and I was tossing around in my head all weekend that Lillard route. Because again, I've kind of soured on the Bradley Beal route, and we can get to that too. But
yeah, man, you were so down on him. You're like, he can't play defense. Team USA is better without him. Done. You were out on Beal like that.
Nigeria did it for you, huh, Bobby?
Yeah, just seeing them together and just imagining a team where it's just them and nothing else. I don't like it. I think you need glue guys, and when we talk about this championship, you had great role players on Milwaukee. You had real quality role players who made it happen in Phoenix on their road to the championship. I just don't think you can strip a roster bare and just say the stars have to do everything. So with this Lillard thing, it's going to be tough to swallow, and I think we have to balance two things here.
We got to look at it a little bit, though, Bobby, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's look at, again, you want to look at Milwaukee as a blueprint. Let's look at Milwaukee as a blueprint right now.
You got to get Giannis too late.
Yeah, you got to get a top 5 player there. Right?
What I'm saying is beyond 3 stars, and again, Holiday is I love Holiday.
He didn't have a great run.
Fringy star, okay?
Yeah.
Beyond those three, I mean, my God. I mean, you pulled a guy off the street who played massive minutes. You've got Connaughton, who's fine. You have the Bucks are a sold out for 3 players and bankrupt team, and they won it all. So again, it's that there's more than one way to do it. Okay, the Lakers sold out on 2 stars and bankrupt. The last 2 champions are star heavy and not deep. Brooklyn has it this year. They won't for much longer because they can't afford to stay deep. Because they're going to be 3 stars only for the most part. That's the deal you make. Are you a 3-star team, or are you a team that builds around the 2 and has more players who can do more things?
I mean, that's kind of the flexibility they have right now, right? I mean, if they play the cards right, if they're really careful with the salary, with the cap, they're going to try to get a bigger name next summer, and maybe that's the route. Maybe that's the 3 guys. I don't know. Bobby's sour on Bradley Beal, but that sort of type of player, right? An all-star that's already established, and you go from there. And I think what Milwaukee did in this run, or at least the entire season, was the fact that they had been through a lot the last couple of years, right? So many ups and downs, and that culture that I think Giannis, of course, has a whole lot to do with. Whether you want to talk about the defensive numbers that were through the roof this year, or the fact that guys that can, like Connaughton can get his name called and he's ready to go. I mean, I think that was the difference. Obviously, I mean, the biggest difference was Giannis, having a top 5 player. But you look at the Phoenix Suns, they had guys that could step up. They had role players that weren't afraid to take those shots. But when it came down to it, when it came down to the biggest moment, win or go home, they buckled. A lot of open shots were missed by those players from the Phoenix Suns. You could see them shaking a bit. It's a big moment. It's a big spot that they weren't prepared for. Whereas the Milwaukee Bucks had sort of been through those devastating losses and postseason runs.
Yeah, the common thread on both those teams is that they found connectors. Holiday on the defensive end for Milwaukee, he really solidified them as being, that unstoppable defense that no one can really crack. I know the Suns had great stretches of offense in the series, but him on Booker, him on Paul in particular, they were able to dominate those matchups a lot of the time when he was on those guys. And then Paul on the other side, you saw how he unlocked everybody on that roster. So that's the one thing I think the Celtics can take away from this ultimately is that investing in a high-level connector, a glue guy to bring together Brown, Tatum, the different pieces on this team, I think is going to be the key for them no matter what. And even back to Goodman's Bradley Beal trade, not even adding Beal to Brown and Tatum, swapping out Brown for Beal the way he showed it. I was just always so skeptical of how good of a creator Beal is. I think he's probably a quality creator. There's a chance he's even better than Tatum and Brown, which would be nice. But I think you really need someone whose thing is getting the ball to people. And I know Ricky Rubio became a hot name after that Spain scrimmage. I think he had 24 in that, right? And then, the names I've tossed around like Lowry and Brogdon and those type of guys, I think is what they got to look at here. They really have to go all in on these type of guys.
You're shooting way too high.
There's lower versions. You can do lower versions of it, but then the ceiling is going to be much lower.
You're looking at upper middle class, but you're paying the middle class money. That's what you're going to get here. You're getting guys. You're getting guys for $11 million TPEs and $9 million, mid levels. That's it. They're not getting the you got to stop with Brogdon and Lowry and stuff like that. Like that's definitely not. I mean, it's just
you got to stop with that.
They have to pay the price to do it.
Possibility.
I don't get why you say that about Beal. I mean, obviously he's not like a point guard. He's not that kind of. But I think he has that mindset to help people out. Whether it's sort of that D Wade type of approach, and of course, D Wade wasn't necessarily the point guard on that team, that Miami Heat team. Neither was Mario Chalmers. Let's face it, it was LeBron James.
Tatum bringing the ball up.
Well, yeah, or if you can even, exactly.
So you think Beal can't be that or better? I mean.
But what I love about Beal is that he move, make sure the ball swings. He can move it around. Whereas I think Jalen, when you compare the two, I think you give the edge to Beal. It's someone that can really keep that ball moving.
Yeah, ultimately, a guy coming in free agency, no matter who it is, and Beal, I'm not going to stub my nose at completely here. If you're giving up nothing for a guy like that besides money and cap space, it's really hard to turn it down. And ultimately,
that's my route.
Yeah,
I don't want to trade
that's the number one. Right. Yeah, that's the number one route. If if it's there and they believe that's going to happen. And it feels more and more likely that that's what they're going to target here. I just think it's not a guarantee by any means. And you're going to need growth out of these young guys. And this is what John loves here, that I just don't know
versions of themselves
is possible. Yeah. Like is Langford going to become a starting level creator along those guys? That's a possibility. That's a way that he could get his foot in the door there in the starting lineup and on a team like that. Grant would obviously have to raise his game and be part of the rotation on that kind of team. Where are we at Nesmith? Like those are the three key guys. Yes. When you look at like, who are the guys on Phoenix?
You mean your starting two guard?
Yeah, Dario Saric, those kind of guys on Phoenix. And then, as you mentioned, Josue Connaughton. I know Lopez is older. He was a crucial guy there. But that's a thing you have to look at, too, here. Mix in some veterans. You got to bring in some guys who are reliable along with these young guys. And that's why, all of a sudden, looking at this, like, I think you need Fournier back in the fold here. It can't be all on these young guys next year, even if you're just using that as a bridge to Beal. Because ultimately, I still think you need to have a good season, build some momentum this year to get to Beal.
It's a bridge to Beal. Here's the thing: everyone's arguing about the Beal versus Lillard. Lillard costs you Jaylen Brown. Beal does not. So do you want a team that's Tatum and Lillard as a core, or do you want a team that's Beal, Brown, and Tatum as a core? It's an obvious. The option B is the obvious one, regardless of whether you like Lillard a little bit better than Beal. It's just whether you want to go that 3-star route and then get a bunch of guys to fill in roster spots and veterans who want to come in here and play with you guys or whatever it is. So that's the dilemma here. Speaking of the Bucks here, again, what do you see in this? Like, again, it's amazing. We talk about the narrative shift here. Again, Kyrie doesn't get hurt or KD's foot is an inch further back. They're gone. They're home. Bud's fired. Giannis can't lead a team. They overpaid for Holiday. Middleton's not a true number 2. They have absolutely no depth. Giannis made a mistake re-signing there. He's going to start looking for a trade.
This was 3 weeks ago, John. This was 3 weeks ago. Like,
3 weeks ago, all of that would have been said. All of it. And now everyone's going to say, oh, look at those guys. And there are lessons we can draw from those guys. And
tell them, Giannis. Tell them.
We will. We'll get there. But what do you see in that team? And you're like, I need to get me some of that. Because I see one thing.
What is it? Fire away.
I'm going to say what I said earlier. Just the culture and everyone buying in and no one afraid of the moment, I guess. I mean, obviously, Giannis is a big part of that. But when you look at the other guys, and of course, Drew Holiday, like, call him the Marcus Smart, if you will. Like, he made some humongous plays. Game 6, not just in Game 5. I mean, especially in Game 5, rather. Like that. Those are the type of plays, the game-winning plays that Celtics fans go crazy over. That is so hard to find in players, and you can't teach that.
You can't teach they really are.
Stripping the ball away from Booker and not being afraid. Like those type of moments like that. You need guys like that.
5 blocks from Giannis in that clincher, and
who
knows how.
And Jeff Teague.
The rim protection on that team was through the roof. Their perimeter defense was outstanding at every position, and Giannis can pretty much guard everybody. I mean, that's ultimately the biggest turnaround the Celtics are going to have to undergo into next year, because for stretches late in the season, the Celtics were as bad as anybody on the defensive end of the floor, and that still was what disgusted me most about the team last year, is that they could never find a defensive identity. And, the Bucks have been a great defense for 4 or 5 years. So, you talk about all these what ifs, John. Like, ultimately, they kind of did a few stupid things down the stretch in that Game 7 that got it to that Durant shot. Ultimately, they pushed the series 7 games through Harden being out there and Kyrie in the early portion of the series being available. I mean, this wasn't a fluke championship for Milwaukee by any means. In other years, I thought them losing was more of a fluke than them winning this year.
But like I said, we talked about it on the thread, and I'm gonna just go with it here. Like,
but here's the thing: it's all Giannis. It's all Giannis.
Giannis is everything. It's obviously, and all of those other guys, they get to kind of ride along, and yes, they had their moments, but if Giannis goes for 38, they lose, and we're talking about what a bum Holiday is. So it's, again, the narratives. It helps when you have your superstar player go for 50-15 with 5 blocks. But again, everything that strikes me about this team isn't the Giannis performance, which again was insanely impressive. Every single thing that he said through the finals, leading up to it. The quotes, the humility quote that went friggin' viral about, the past is your ego and the present is your humility and all of these things. Can you imagine any single player or any superstar player on the Celtics saying anything remotely close to that? And again, and we talked about the parallel between Jason Tatum's, interview with Gary Washburn and how the season unfolds. Like Giannis has that thing. And again, yes, he's 8 years in and he's played with Middleton for a long time. And Tatum and Brown are 3 and 4 years in. But we talk about Tatum and Brown reaching the next level. They do that when they get the mentality of that 30-year-old NBA veteran who's like, fuck it. I'm tired of scoring titles or blah, blah, blah. I want to win. That's when they get it. They don't have it yet. They don't have it. You're listening to Tatum talking about like, look at my assist numbers went up. I should have made third team all NBA. Yeah, probably. Fine. Whatever. Shut up. Let us say it. Let us say it. The media will say it. These guys love you. They're going to be like, oh, as soon as Tatum didn't make the team, all of Celtics media, he was robbed. He was fringy. He's fine. He wasn't robbed. He was a fringe guy.
He was robbed. It was.
Come on.
Wow, his team went 500. Okay.
He's the only guy in the league that scored 50 points 4 different times this year.
God, are you his fucking?
He took another step as a facilitator. I mean, he was the only guy holding it together for long stretches of this year. Like he was extremely valuable to them. Plus,
Bobby was going to get a cut. He's going to get cut of that.
You got 3 centers on the teams. Like, I don't like that either. Ultimately, you got to have the 15 best players in the league on the teams. I liked how they went out of positions in many ways with it, and he was on there. And again, you got to ask a question. Like, what's he supposed to say? I don't give a damn about the $30 million.
Ready? Here's what you say. You say, you know what? Stats don't really mean anything to me. Neither do individual honors or awards. The bottom line is we finished as a 500 team and got bounced in the first round. So whatever it is I did this year, it obviously wasn't enough to get our team to the next level. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to improve my game and I'm going to show everybody not only am I one of the best players, but I'm the guy who's going to lead this team back to the conference finals, back to the finals. That's how you answer the question. You don't say, look at my assists went up. That's not how you do it.
That's how you make the argument for the All-NBA.
No, I don't care, but everyone keeps saying he was asked the question. That's great, but there's a way to answer it, and there's a way to look like you're. And again, there's a couple of people in the chat making good points. This is how young players are. They're a little stat obsessed early. They want to be stars. They want to get in the club. They want to get
definitely fixated on his status. That's for sure.
Yeah, you want to get there. You want to get in the club. And once you're there, then you start to kind of reassess your priorities and say, oh, okay, I think I want to win now. They're not It's not there yet in a mentality or a mindset. Doesn't mean it's not going to get there, but that switch has to flip over. Like I said, you can be Giannis and do everything and decide you can go a fourth quarter without shooting until 2 minutes left and help your team. You could be Jimmy Butler. You could be one of those guys, or you can be, hey, look at me with my step back 3. That's great. There's plenty of both.
For sure.
But they got to change it. You got to get different things out of these guys. I thought more people would be mad at me in the chat, and it's not happening. Also,
because I think they know you're spot on. I mean, look, it's like I said a few weeks ago when it was announced, or whatever, a month ago. There's a difference between being mad about the voting process and saying, this is BS. Like, no, I should have been on there. It's like, well, at the end of the day, like, aren't you more disappointed about the way the team got bounced out of the first round? And I'm not saying that
these are mutually exclusive things. Having your financial fortunes tied to
it shows where his head is at.
Yeah, but the way he's going to respond to that is rooted in that.
It's dumb. Having your financial $30 million riding on some freaking, pasty white rider in friggin' Indiana, making it dumb. Different story. Complain about the system, even though it was collectively bargained for. The rest of the stuff is don't talk about yourself. Don't do that. Let other people say it. Let other people say it.
You're not there yet.
I did love his performance against Spain on Sunday.
But
more glue guy, more passing. That's a different kind of stuff. Yeah. You want to see from him, and he's capable of it. Again, he's making steps. He's making strides. There's a mentality of growth that he's going to have to step into here. And I think a lot of your points are valid, John, in terms of him stepping into the leadership role on this team. What's the difference between him and Giannis? Tatum's drafted in 2017, right? Giannis has been going at this since 2013, and Giannis had a lot of missteps along the way. Last year, as recently as last year.
Can I give another answer? The AAU coming up a different way, right? Not in the U.S.
For sure, that's the central one. Yeah.
Am I off there? I mean, if Giannis
not being treated like a star since you were 9,
exactly.
all of that stuff.
If Giannis had that same upbringing, maybe he joins the Heat this past offseason. Maybe he says, "Look, Milwaukee, I'm sorry, I gave it all I got, but this is it. I'm out of here." Like,
you saw that quote circulating.
Different upbringing.
Yeah. You saw the quote circulating a ton with Giannis, coming in. What do you want to be in this league? I just want to make the NBA. Like, even he's drafted 13th overall, and his stated dream on draft night was like, I just want to stick, man. Different sort of story. Like guys.
You sent this thing over the weekend, John, of like, can Tatum do this? We'll see. Ultimately, I think if he really honed into that degree and gained that level of weight, and I know he's not Giannis height, so that makes a difference here too. But there is a route that he can get to that level just with his talent, because what he doesn't have Giannis' size, he obviously has in the talent here.
Right.
But he's not a burden at this point for the Celtics. Again, he's so early in his development.
Yeah, that's not the thing. It's just when you think about how he's sort of expedited this growth, or however you want to look at it, in terms of him being able to go to so many deep playoff runs so early in his career. You sort of hope that he would get the overall picture by now, and he'll get there. Again, he's still young, but to John's point, I would have loved for him to highlight a couple of players on the team. Say, hey, we had a tough year. It's too bad I didn't make the All NBA. But shoot, I saw some growth from Romeo Langford, so I'm excited about that this upcoming season. Or hey, Aaron Nesmith had a really tough, he was robbed of a true rookie experience. So we're gonna work together and make sure we're good to go. I'm gonna call these guys during the offseason. We'll have workouts going. Things like that. That's a message that goes a long way.
Right.
From Tatum.
What did he say? Tatum? The quote was, "I guess I got blamed for COVID." Are you freaking kidding me? That's not the right answer.
That's not it.
That's not it.
That was that weird thing that went on with the Wizards, wasn't it? The Wizards were blaming them for COVID. I saw that going around a week ago. I think that's what that was all about.
I'm more mean. Tatum was like, my whole team was ravaged with COVID. I did everything in my power for us to win. What are you blaming me for? I got penalized. I don't make all NBA because everyone around me got sick, or because I got sick.
Right.
I don't know. All of that stuff I thought was a little bit rough. So we're going to hit Tatum a little bit more. I want to welcome in, we have a special guest. We don't do this a ton, but it's a great opportunity to bring in. I don't know.
Nice lighting.
You know JL Cauvin. You should know who JL Cauvin is. He is the premier Trump impersonator in the world. He's an extremely talented stand-up comic as well, based out of New York. He's a former college basketball player at Williams. And he does a podcast, Making Podcasts Great Again, on the CLNS Media Network. And he has a show coming up this Monday at the City Winery in Boston, Monday, 8 o'clock. Is that right, JL?
That was all correct.
Yeah. So I got most of that right. So multiple things we're going to tell you guys. I'm going to tell you guys now. We'll tell you guys again on the back end. Tickets are available still, I believe, a few, not a ton. So you guys got to get moving for some of these tickets. But tickets are available. So go get them, and I'll put the information on the screen shortly for you guys to go get them. Also, a perk if you give a shit about it. A lot of the guys from the Garden Report are going to be there, and we're going to hang out. And if you're there and you come up and you see us, say, hey, I'm a fan of the Garden Report. We'll get you a drink, and we'll hang out, and we'll watch some good comedy, and we'll watch JL. On top of being
before or after the show, hopefully not during.
Not during. During, you focus on it. But in addition to being one of the funniest guys alive, JL is also a big basketball guy. So before we get into all of the promotion and talk about your stuff, you were listening a little bit on the background conversation here. What's your takeaway? You watch the NBA Finals, you see Giannis win. He's the spotlight guy. But, and I could be wrong. You're a Jazz fan, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
That's a great fit.
Well, I say, I'm biracial. My father was black, my mother is white, and because they fought so much, I gravitated towards Malone and Stockton because they didn't fight; they got along. So,
It's pretty funny.
But I love like hearing like all the talk about Booker and now Tatum. I always feel like, and I know I'm biased as a Jazz fan, but I always think Donovan Mitchell just doesn't quite get the respect he deserves as sort of a young superstar and like kind of a good leader who sort of says and does the right things for a up and coming team. But that's just my Jazz.
So wait, you think so? It's an obvious. What's funny is like you heard a little bit of our Tatum, all NBA snub. Mitchell was snubbed. Mitchell has every bit of the same case. Booker, right. Trae Young. There's a lot of guys on that who didn't make that cut, who have just as good a case as Tatum or better. Right. And Mitchell's always that guy who a lot of people point to of like. Everyone's talking Tatum is the guy. Mitchell's every bit the player. This guy is. What's your take, even if you're going to alienate yourself from a bunch of people in Boston that you want to come see your show?
I think, like, my nephew actually said to me during these playoffs, he was like, oh, but if the Jazz get the Suns, you have to look out for Booker. And I said, why do the Jazz have to look out for Booker, but the Suns don't have to look out for Mitchell? Like, Mitchell has been killing it in the playoffs since his rookie year when he took out George and Westbrook in the first round. He dropped 2 50-point games last year against the Nuggets, but of course it got forgotten because they eventually lost in 7. And he was phenomenal in the playoffs this year. So other than, the top of the top players in the league, I'm very happy with Mitchell for the next decade if we can keep him as our star, as our number one guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and I think he says the right things, like all the things you guys are sort of complaining. Tatum is obviously a great talent, but there are none of those complaints, all the negatives of kind of like, is he approaching it the right way? I know he's a young guy. Mitchell came into the league, with 1 extra year of college, and that's it. Same draft class, and no problems. He's just all good and all positives.
And he has massive chip on your shoulder, like, I'm going to show you how good I am, but it doesn't feel like it's me sort of thing. It's I don't get respect. I'm going to friggin' come out there. I'm going to play better tomorrow. And then you're going to say you had the weird interview with Shaq, but yeah.
That was the weirdest thing I ever seen. I mean, he's a ceiling raiser for sure. They've gotten deep playoff runs there in Utah, but they, like the Celtics, have been a team that's gotten to like that highest level, but hasn't pushed through the finals, especially this last year. I mean, they had the break against Kawhi.
This was painful. This was because Quinn Snyder, who I like as a coach, watching that game 6, I came home from a gig at like midnight and was watching like the season disintegrate in front of me. And I was like, get Gobert out.
It's a Rudy problem, right? Yeah, it's not a Mitchell problem.
It was a situational problem. It was like, okay, you've left. What's the guy's name? Is it Mann?
Terrence Mann, yeah.
Terrence Mann. Okay, I get it. You think he's a weak spot. But now he's hit like 7 shots in a row, and he's an NBA player. Guard him. Like, now somebody has to guard him. The Rudy sit in the paint. Like, that's a limitation of Rudy. But the fact is, you should have just put like Bogdanovich in at center and been like, we have a 15-point lead. If they want to try and outshoot us, the number 1 3-point shooting team in the league, let's ride what we did best this year. Instead, it was like, no, eventually Terrence Mann will miss.
That's a good lesson.
Strategy.
This is why I think the Celtics are going to be much better next year too. You had a $30 million guy, and this is kind of what goes on with Gobert out there in Utah. It's hard to sit down the $30 million man, even when the situation calls for it. Even when you got to adjust your whole play style, and it's probably going to piss someone off or hurt the ego or something like that. Sometimes you just have to do it, and that's what the Celtics went through last year with Kemba. Like, he wasn't getting it done a lot of the time when he was out there. He was banged up. He was being a liability at times on defense, and you just couldn't turn away from him as the starter. I know John was screaming throughout the year, bench him.
So by the way, Kemba Walker's grandmother was my lunch lady in high school. That's a true story.
Wow.
As many smiles.
She was very nice. Very nice. I had no idea, obviously, because I'm older. He was like an elementary school kid at the time. I was like, oh, by the way, is your grandson any chance going to be an NBA superstar? But but then I saw an article when he won the title with Connecticut. she was in the Daily News. I said, hey, that's my lunch lady. So that's my connection to Celtics hoops, basically.
Well,
so you're from New York? That's what's up.
Yeah.
We talked about Mitchell versus Tatum or Giannis, even for that matter. And again, leadership, grit, blah, 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 all of that stuff. That's great. How much does charisma matter? Like, how much is it to be like, it's impossible not to like Giannis. Mitchell's got that kind of vibe too. Tatum's a little mumbly, sleepy, in his thing. But it's like, it's not just that energy. Like, you need the energy to, like, lift it a little bit. That's something we've always gotten on Tatum. It's like, he's not going to change his personality to be a rah-rah guy. But he does look mopey, at times. And that stuff, I don't know how contagious it is or isn't. I don't want to be the body language cops. But it's hard not to notice it at times in stretches where he just kind of gets into it. And fans and commenters have talked about it as well.
He pouts. I mean, and I'm just as an outside observer, like the games I see with the Celtics, it seems he has a lot of like flailing arm complaints. Like they're not even like fired up. What the F? It's like kind of like I get like sometimes he just kind of looks like I give up. What? Yeah. Why aren't I getting the superstar calls?
Yeah,
and I'm like, as a Malone fan, Malone complained a ton to Karl Malone to the refs. But it was like, he was like an 8-time all first team NBA guy. So, but Tatum seems to, and I'm saying this, maybe this is nothing new to you guys, but it just seems like incredible talent. But like, you're probably in a tough spot with someone like him because maybe he wants to be the leader, maybe in points and salary, but maybe not the leader of the team in terms of I'm going to direct what's going on. But
so
it's
that
weird.
comment
not going to be happy. But then, if you bring in somebody who is leader guy, it will probably rub him the wrong way.
Yeah. See, I think what bothers me about that is like he's almost putting out this message where it's just like, if I just keep getting better, everything's gonna be fine, guys. You know that, right? And it's like, no, that's not how. Like,
yeah, he's from the Kyrie.
You can't just score 50 points a night and expect that to everything to be okay and the team's gonna be successful.
Yeah. That Kyrie school of shoot more is essentially what he's gone down here. But that's a great point,
exactly.
though.
Yeah. By the way, JL,
go ahead.
Karl Malone, definitely maybe the hardest player to root for in the last 30 years in the NBA. That's a tough guy to have locked on to.
But you got to realize when you're a tall, aspiring power forward and you're just getting in the weight room and you're like, well, that guy's the epitome of power forward.
Here's a box.
And he still looks like he could kick some ass. So, but yes, I know he's got a lot of problems.
Yeah,
a lot of negatives on his. If they were to redo his draft report, there'd be some red flags. Yeah. He would not survive a Me Too environment.
I was just gonna say that. 2020, no way. 2021.
Stockton and Malone.
Oh, and with Stockton, not to get political, but to find out Stockton is out there doing like anti-vax documentaries. I'm like, they're suiciding my childhood.
Yeah, he went hard.
What? I didn't know about this. I gotta check this out.
And Stockton never says anything. Stockton never says anything. This is the time he decided to be vocal.
Yeah, right. I'm shocked that this is his moment.
I haven't heard from Stockton in forever. And not only it's not like he threw one random tweet to get himself in headlines. He's literally directing a friggin' documentary. I mean, he's starring in a documentary.
He's one of the Big 12 that Terry does.
Yeah, that's his Space Jam. Anti-vax is his version of Space Jam.
Dude, last time I heard from John Stockton, he was telling stories about being for the Dream Team 30 for 30, I think it was. Like, it was great. And I'm like, I never had to hear from John Stockton. This is his follow-up? Jeez.
Yeah. So swinging it back, okay, we'll segue it a little bit. Obviously, politics was your bread and butter here because of the Trump impersonation, which is where you kind of not made your bones, but I mean, that's where things blew up for you, right? You've been doing stand-up for a while. How did you stumble onto that specifically? And I got to apologize. Previously, we had Cauvin misspelled here on the tweet. This is JL's handle. And once again, letting everybody know here, City Winery. This, bro. Don't tell him. City Winery on Monday.
Don't hide the H.
City Winery on Monday. JL's doing a show. Get tickets. The Garden Report crew is all going to be there, including Nick, and we're going to hang out. We're going to hang out with you guys before and after the show. We're going to watch some good comedy. But how did the Trump thing kind of start?
It started actually back in 2014. So before he even ran, I was a regular on the Adam Carolla show.
Yeah.
And I was just doing different impressions for the show, and I sort of stumbled in. They were talking about Trump, and I kind of stumbled into it, and it was like good at the time, but now I look back at it and it was horrible. But it was good like for a first effort.
Right.
So I was already working on one for like a year before he announced that he was running. Wow. And so, you know, I was getting spots on podcasts and things like radio shows, but nothing was blowing up. And I was like, oh, well, if this isn't blowing up, I know this is awesome. So if this isn't blowing up, what the hell am I doing with my comedy career? This is like my cut fastball. You know, right. If I'm Mariano Rivera, sorry, Red Sox fans, whoever your closer is.
He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. You got that. It's all right.
But I was like, if this isn't working, then what am I doing? Then everything got shut down, and I was making videos. I was bored in my apartment, made a couple of videos as Trump, and it got seen like, 15 million times. And it changed, like you guys caught it. It literally changed my life. It's like very bizarre to think that you're doing comedy for 16 years. I was on late night television. I did all the like bullet points, and then one video like went worldwide and just totally changed my comedy career. It's like that doesn't happen in sports. You know what I mean? It's not like this is. I feel like the Neon Bordeaux of comedy. If for any Blue Chips fans out there, like I was just a giant dunking in like a barn in Louisiana, and Nick Nolte discovered me suddenly.
Yeah, but that's not so rare in comedy though, right? Some of these guys, they really break later on. Later when they got a couple of decades in, even or close to it. So that's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, no, it's definitely cool, and I'm definitely grateful. But it is one of those things where like some of the industry obviously looks for like young talent. They're always trying to nurture. It's like sports drafting. It's like the 4-year senior goes in the second round because they go, well, he's probably maxed out his potential. But we'll take the 6'11", 14-year-old who like trips over himself, but we think
wingspan.
One day he's going to be
we'll take Yabusele, at number 13. That's fine. Yeah, he'll pan out. He's got plenty. He's got a ceiling.
It's a tough bit though because like it helps when you're young and like your body can like handle like massive doses of cocaine and like and like. You got that freaking crazy nervous energy to be a total whack job doing comedy. You definitely see it. Look at any SNL guy, when they get to 40 and it's just like, oh, you got grumpy, huh? Yeah.
Oh, even like 6 years ago, I would go drinking after every show. I'm not like a big drinker, but it would just be like you'd have that energy of like, let's keep the party going.
Let's go.
I'm like trying not to look sleepy at the end of shows to fans because I'm like, I got to get to my hotel. Like my end of show tradition is like a pack of soft batch cookies and a milk. Like that's it. It's the saddest thing. I used to be like, give me a 9th gin and tonic, please. And now I'm like, should I get 1 or 2 packs of cookies to watch Sports Center?
Exactly. So we'll put you on the spot.
Hold on, real quick. Let me get this question in. Give me top 5 or 3, if you will, favorite comedians.
Oh, okay. Chris Rock, number 1.
Same.
Greg Giraldo, late Greg Giraldo, probably my number 2. He was a people don't know this, but I'm an attorney also, and he was a lawyer turned comedian. He mostly known for his roasts on Comedy Central. And 3, maybe a tie between Bill Burr and Patrice O'Neal.
Okay.
So
that's not a bad list. Yeah, I'll go Burr. Well, number 1 is Dave. I go Dave. Yeah, perfect. Dave, Rock, Burr. There you go. That's my 3.
Speaking of Dave, that's one in your wheelhouse too.
Yes.
Well, it's funny because I have some people who will say you sound nothing like Dave Chappelle, and I'm like, have you heard Dave Chappelle in the last year?
All right, give me current Dave Chappelle. Your current Dave Chappelle describing his comedy career right now.
So I'm talking to my friend Joe Rogan, and he says to me, Dave, I need you to get some CBD oil and bring it to my house in Texas and rub it all over my body. And I said, Joe, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing because Comedy Central still owes me some money. So I said, when Comedy Central pays me I'll come to Texas and put CBD on your penis.
Because some people are used to that Chappelle show, but he's become deeper and like
gravelly.
The way you
way
spaced
more
that out
gravelly.
was
He's got the
perfect.
smoke all the time now.
Yeah. You spaced that out perfectly.
Yeah.
I would also put. Never mind. I want to bring him up, but he's been through it. But Louis was one of my favorites, man. Louis C.K. It's just too bad. I mean, obviously a Boston guy, but he was hilarious.
I do. That was the first video I ever did that went viral. Was Louis C.K. If you look it up after, Louis C.K. tells the classics. It went viral like in 2013 when he was at the top of no scandals, top of the game.
Right.
And a lot of comics were like, "Why are you hating?" And I was like, he was just on the cover of Rolling Stone. Like, he's fair game now. It's not like he's some dude at the club that I'm like picking on. And it was just Louis C.K. telling knock jokes, but just in his like meandering fashion, and then ending each one with how he hates his kids.
We lose Josue at least once per show. Josue, you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
We call that
Brockton streak going.
Brockton Wi-Fi for the uninitiated. Anyway, let's bring out the big guns. You want to give everybody a little taste of Trump if he wants to talk about the NBA Finals. Any message for the Milwaukee Bucks or anything like that?
So we're not too pleased with the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, they're they have the Greek Freak, which I can tell you, my Vice President Mike Pence, he heard Greek Freak, he came running. He loves doing things very strongly with Greek style, if you know what I mean. He's a very Christian gay. So what I will say is, this is what happens when you have no strong immigration. The radical left NBA with LeBron. Everything, we're very Black Lives Matter, radical left. We don't like our anthem. And then what happens is, instead of a strong American like Kevin Love or who are the other white guys? Well, anyway, Gordon Hayward. We love Gordon Hayward, very strong guy. Instead, what you get is
Donald. I believe he supports you. I believe.
Well, I would think so. Come on, look at him. He's got like the alt-right haircut. So when you don't do strong immigration, you get a giant Greek African American coming into your league and stealing the championship. I think he stole the title. I want to see our law enforcement go after the Greek Freak. He sounds like a Batman villain, with no. The Greek Freak stole the trophy from Gordon Hayward. Go get him.
That's pretty good, man. That's good. Yeah. Oh, I'm excited for Monday for sure. I obviously you can tell I'm a huge fan of comedy. So
I was thinking
my stand-up, I swear to God, my stand-up is killer. Like this has been a process of moving. So obviously some people are just going to be like, I like impressions. I'm happy with that. But like, obviously I can't go around doing Trump for the next, well, maybe I could, but I don't want to.
Right.
So like I'm a veteran stand-up comedian. This is my chance to sort of, the show will have some impressions, some Q&A with my impressions after, but like the bulk of it is me prepping my new stand-up hour. So people will get a little bit of everything.
And that's the thing. And again, I don't want to disparage impressionists, per se, but you do find some of the best impressionists aren't funny. They're great. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, that sounds just like him. But once that wears off, you're not actually laughing. Like, I'm not saying this just because I'm shilling for you because you're on the show, because you're on our network. JL's legitimately one of the funniest people alive. So it is. I mean, in anything. So it's way more than that. It's just the Trump impression is so freaking uncanny, from the mannerism to literally everything, the tone, the cadence.
And as you guys know,
and it's amazing to think you can pull it out and it just rolls without it being scripted. You turn these videos out so fast, and I'm like, how did you do that? It's amazing. I don't know how your brain works like that, but the Trump, it's like it's inhabited your being.
Yeah, it's like a horror movie, really. I think it's like at some point I'm going to be grabbing my girlfriend by the you-know-what and go, it's not me. I'm possessed. It's like The Exorcist, the Trumpcercist. But yeah, and as you know, we do a 45-minute podcast every week.
Yep.
Off the cuff, basically, with just topics with me as Trump. And then I've been doing like Mike Lindell and Pence and McConnell. So I look forward to all those guys like moving aside, though, because I need new targets and new subjects. They just have dominated so much that, but it happens all the time. I don't even know when people say, oh, what's your next impression? They show up, somebody in the media that I can sound like shows up and I start working that. So, but the Trump has been obviously very dominant and very lucrative. So,
Yeah, as far as the podcast goes, it's called Making Podcasts Great Again. It's on our network with JL Cauvin and his buddy Jay Nog, who kind of plays the straight man to JL's goofy Trump, and he sets him up, and it's a really funny
tech stuff guy.
The tech stuff. He's the tech stuff. It's a really
new one every week.
And that's, by the way, the tech stuff guy was the very first episode. I just said, you're like, who are you? You're like the tech stuff guy. And it just stuck. That was it.
It's a really good podcast. It's really funny. You can catch it. Obviously, subscribe to it wherever you subscribe to podcasts. But beyond that, you can watch it on YouTube and Daily Motion here. Also, JL's got a YouTube channel of his own, which you should definitely check out, which has all of his bits and a lot of the other stand-up stuff that he's doing, but all of his Trump stuff. Library of stuff that you can check out as well. But again, the show is Monday, 8:00. Tickets still available. You go here, citywinery.com/Boston. Get your tickets. Once again.
Yes, pull up.
Again, I don't know if this is a draw. JL is the draw, but we will tell you guys as well. We're going to be there. So if you want to come and hang out with us too, come hang out. You get to meet us. Nick, Jimmy, Bobby, Sherrod, who's not here tonight, Josue, and we'll hang out and watch some really good comedy. JL, anything else for our audience before you go?
No, thank you for having me. I know some people want to get back to the Celtics, and I appreciate that. So I thank you for letting me be a little bit of a diversion, letting me go first, take you to the Utah Jazz, and then just take you to comedy. So get back to the Celtics.
Listen to those are our fans. They're ball busters. Don't worry.
Utah Jazz, little comedy, and now a couple sleeves of cookies, and we'll call it a night, right?
They love it. They love it. Okay, they're just being good stuff.
I know. I was trying to get the chat to hide. I was just like, because I'm the type of person who I'll get like 300 positive YouTube comments, and I'll spend an hour figuring out how to roast the two people who said something nasty.
I'm getting this motherfucker.
And I'm like, it's already lunchtime. What the fuck am I doing with my day?
I had the perfect one. So thanks, JL.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Monday.
Thanks, guys.
We'll keep promoting the show and all of that stuff. And again, we just put the link in the chat again. That's where you can get your tickets. We're going to keep promoting it later. We're also going to jump on Locker Room later, and anybody there will tell you guys all about JL and his show coming up Monday as well. So thanks. We will see you. We'll see you in town a couple days.
You. Yes, absolutely. Right. Thanks so much, guys.
Yep. So anyway, awesome guy, super fun stand-up bit. The podcast is awesome. The show's going to be great. It is great. And just like I said, Bobby's worked with him. He's worked on that podcast. They're just funny dudes.
Impressions, spot on.
I feel like watching stand-up. I got to watch stand-up.
His stand-up is, like I said, the Trump stuff is bananas. It's uncanny how good he is. It's like you see every single person does a Trump impression, the last 4 years. His is on another planet. But the stand-up is really, really, really good. He's just a really funny guy. He's just smart as a whip. He's super funny. So you guys definitely check it out. It'll be worth it. And you can meet Bobby. You can all you Bobby fans can tell.
We'll be trying out all the wines. Yeah, we'll be talking Trump.
No, all the Bobby fans they're putting in their credit card information right now for these tickets. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
they're already on it.
Yeah, you can tell Bobby why he's right. So again, go there, check it out. Let's do a little more Celtics talk. We'll hop over to Locker Room a little bit. We're talking about Tatum and Jalen kind of taking that leap. We're back and forth.
JL actually said something interesting in there that I was going to jump on before we started talking about the show there. The willingness, if necessary, for Tatum to defer to another star. Because that would ultimately be the case if Beal came in, right? It would sort of become Beal's team per se, I guess. Which I actually think he'd be probably amicable to. Like, this is a guy that he's 4 years younger than, grew up under, sort of looked up to in a way. I think that would kind of be a situation in terms of leadership on the team that worked. And I actually read one of those quotes from the Washburn article, as sort of him being like, I'm more of a hesitant leader. Like, yeah, this is kind of the position I'm in now. He didn't necessarily say it, but maybe that's not the position I'm in forever. If he was eventually going to go and join some other stars, obviously he would be, second, third option on one of those super teams. And then, like I said, if Beal comes in here, I think he'd sort of be the front man in this situation, which, watching Tatum with Team USA, it's kind of a good fit for him. Secondary passing, off the ball
I think
movement.
it's more of a 1A, 1B. I don't know. It's between him and Tatum, but that respect certainly goes a long way. I think that's relevant for sure. And that's someone that he obviously, competes with every time they play with each other.
Yeah, in the KG Pierce Allen, what helps in a big three, what helps in scenarios like that is when people have different strengths. It's difficult when everybody on your team, their primary
strength, why I'm
souring
on it a little bit,
is being a give me the ball shot creator. That's a ball dominant shot creator. That's tough because then it becomes, that's why the Nets is tough. But I mean, Harden and Kyrie can also pass. So it's a different story.
Durant's kind of a big man. Yeah.
And Durant can swing low. He's a little big. He can play small ball 5 if he has to. It's a different, it's different with them. But in this case, it would just be 3 guys whose primary skill is give me the ball and let me score. It doesn't fit great. It's 3 names, but they're not complementary pieces by any means. Whereas Pierce, KG, and Allen had diverse enough skill sets where Ray Allen, who was a ball dominant guy, and most people only know him from his Celtics, most people remember him Celtics on, but prior to that, Seattle, Milwaukee, he's give me the ball and get out of my way. This is a guy, Ray Allen was in a freaking dunk contest. People forget this. Like Ray Allen was an explosive athlete who could do a lot of different things, who could go to the hole. And here he became fine, I'll just run around screens and shoot threes if that's what you need me to do, because that's what this team needs me to do, play off the ball. And he did. And he had that skill set, People
forget he was putting up about like 27 points right before he came to Boston.
He's nuts, man. He's a top 5 NBA.
He was just a scoring machine for Seattle. They were just ready to just start over with Durant, and they sort of just hit the reset, and they obviously they did what they did.
Where does Jaylen Brown end up in that situation too? Because is he just back to the corner? Like is his ball time go down even more? Because he's important in that arrangement.
I believe
Jaylen is the best players on the opposing teams too, so you got to remember that.
Yeah. I think Jaylen has to be Jimmy Butler more. It has to be more Butler in the sense of I would rather see Jaylen give 35 minutes of max effort both ends of the floor and his numbers go down and just be that dog on defense and be a little bit more, and then get the points when you need them, get the buckets when you need them, still isolate matchups. The problem again with the Celtics is you're always hunting a matchup with those lineups like that, and you would be with Beal as well, which ends up being a ton of iso ball and a lot of friggin' jumpers. And that's just not necessarily the type of offense that you want, and that's what they would become. So again, there's problems with the Beal thing. It's just I think everyone just wants a quick fix solution. You saw last year and you're like, ugh. The more I go back and forth on it.
Yes, we were.
No, it's true. The more I go back and forth, the more I'm in the run it back mode in the sense of I'd rather go with the 2 stars and build real pieces around them. And I don't know.
So it's hard though because you don't have the other pieces per se.
You don't.
At least yet.
You got to see if you have them.
And you have to find that out though. You have to see that through.
Find it out. Yeah.
We talked about the Romeos and the Neesmiths. Those are 2 guys that obviously are the one that are under the microscope here.
Let's see.
Sure, you could throw Grant's name in there as well, but those 2 are the ones that sort of, let's face it, this franchise sort of has their money on, right? They're like, we have to hit with both of these guys. If not, at least one of them has to be an everyday player on this team.
You don't need them. Again, you need these guys to be Jay Crowder good, not friggin' Jaylen Brown good.
Exactly, right.
I'm
looking at Neesmith. I got my money on Neesmith.
Right. You need them to be Jay Crowder good. That's about it. That guy's starting on a team in the finals right now. You need a guy who can start or be a 5 through 8 rotational player that could at any point in time step up and play 25, 30 minutes. That's it. You're not looking for the next star. You just need to fill some holes. You need competent players, okay? That's it. They don't even have to be Fournier, who's obviously an outstanding player. You're looking for a guy to be the 4th wing on this team. That's not asking a ton, So I want to see it. Whether the answer is yes or no, I still think the thing they have to do is give them a good look. You decide this year if they're those guys or not, and if they're not,
you got to see that through. Right?
You got to see it through. So I want to see it through. I do want to see it through.
Where's that leave Marcus Smart though? Because there's not upside left with him per se.
Guys, I need a charger for my phone for locker room. I got to jump off for 2 seconds. You guys continue the conversation. I'm jumping back on in 2 seconds.
I think
John wants to see the Celtics trade Marcus Smart. He got really uncomfortable there. We're not.
That's not what I said.
You know who watches this show?
I'll be back. You know who loves the Garden Report?
Or that's a good tweet. That's a good tease for the locker room. I mean, for Spotify Greenroom.
What are you looking at? Think there will be an active draft night for the Celtics a week from now?
No. You mean you think they'll trade into the first round or something like that?
Yeah, or make other moves. There's always moves going on around the draft too that necessarily don't have to have anything to do with the draft. That TP deadline's coming up for them. Kind of fast here.
I'd be really surprised, honestly. Like we were just talking about with the Romeos and the Neesmith, Pritchard. I mean, these guys. I mean, not going to training camp and all that, especially the rookies. Like that's going to go a long way for these guys. And I'm not saying that all of a sudden Pritchard's going to be fighting for the starting point guard spot, but I do think he'll make a tremendous stride for sure. I mean, we said the same thing about Grant Williams, but then Grant Williams had a completely different offseason that most 2-year, third-year players get.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily all in on trading up and making splashes on next week's draft, even though that would obviously help us a little bit. But I have been leaning into the fact that they could get something good here, even if it's in the undrafted market after this draft. This draft seems like it has a massive prospects, and we've seen it the last couple of years that fall into that second round, don't get drafted at all. If they end up in the right situation, I think there's certainly some point guard minutes on this team that could be dished out to a young guard. You might end up with a steal in this kind of situation here. There's a lot less pressure than there is to, find a guy who can play right away at like 14 like they did last year with Aaron Neesmith. So you can, pick a project here in the second round. You can, find a guy with some upside who slipped because of some concerns. I don't have a ton in terms of specifics. Probably get into that a little bit next week, but I've been telling John that 45 pick, it's important.
Franchise altering.
It could be. Where would Jokic go? 47?
How do you say these things?
Middleton was 39.
Yeah. So, every once in a while.
Again, why look at the outliers, Bobby?
It's rare, but it's possible. So you can't just blow off this pick, especially when it's your only pick.
I can't figure you out, man. You're a guy who wants to trade 7 first-round picks for literally like a 5% personnel upgrade, and you're saying that like the 45 pick in the draft is a huge deal. Like, do draft picks matter or not? The 15 pick is garbage, but the 45 pick is friggin' franchise altering.
Draft picks matter or not?
These are real deal flyers here. And again, if they're really going on this Beal plan, like you say here, and I'm seeing Yam in the chat again too. You're gonna have a guy like Yam who's probably making $1 million.
Is it Yam, not Yam?
It is Yam. I love Yam, but you gotta go with the real pronunciation.
Yam.
Yeah. It's like that day. All of a sudden, Brad Stevens started saying Shemi. No one said Semi after that. It was Shemi for forever.
I wish we could roll with Yam.
We couldn't get Rondo right for friggin' his entire career.
That was hard early on.
Rajon or Rajon?
Yeah.
Either way,
don't think we know.
Either way, he's getting those Yam emojis. See, they're already right there. There you go.
You know what's always driven me nuts? We didn't, for an entire career, that no Patriots fans didn't get Gostowski right. The K is pronounced in the first one. It's Gostowski, not Guskowski. But they couldn't get it.
Didn't know.
Isn't it?
We were told.
Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but isn't it Ante Tecumbo? You're supposed to say with the B at the end, no?
So there's no B in the Greek alphabet, so you have to combine those letters together. That's why it's NMP. MP is the B sound in the Greek alphabet. Yeah. There is no B. So it's Adetokounmpo is how it is.
Which I didn't say that until I think the second year. But
Yeah.
we didn't have a whole lot of Giannis talk.
Adetokounmpo.
Some fans are too busy hoping that he was going to be a bust. But yeah, Antetokounmpo.
Adetokounmpo.
Even some of the announcers though, they butcher it and they just feel uncomfortable.
They're like, because they break it into 5 words. They're trying so hard. Yeah.
You hammer all those syllables.
They just can't. They got to break it up.
That was interesting. I didn't actually know about his name background, and I know Sherrod had Mirren on, and I had her on a week before that. I can't wait to read that book now.
Yeah,
that was the perfect roll up for that book. This whole run that he's gone on.
She's doing this right now. She's like,
how fortunate is she? She's the Giannis authority right now at a time where he's the biggest name in the sport. That's a huge deal with his background. And again, everyone's learning more about his story and the humble origins and all of that stuff. But a great freaking story, and it was a rough time with him. Upbringing there. Everybody knows they were afraid they're going to get deported. He wasn't even a citizen until he was turned 19. He didn't have an easy ride there. It was tough. So, you get the feeling that he appreciates literally every single positive thing that happens to him in his life. And that just kind of comes through in almost everything that he does. Like I said, an impossible guy not to like, right? I mean, if you weren't a Giannis fan before this, it's hard to not be now.
Where do you think he's going to end up all the time?
That's a hard point, because you know what's great about him? The one thing that he's got more so than other people as they age is he's going to be a 5. Like he's going to spend the last 7-8 years of his career as a 5 and be a freaking great one. And he can do that. So even if he loses some of the explosiveness and the ability to kind of score and transition and some of the stuff he does, he's just going to be an outstanding 5 in the NBA right now. He kind of is already. He's the new 5. He's like the new ideal 5. He'll be the new 5, but that's going to keep him.
You got the other ones, but he's a little right.
And then you don't have to worry as much about like him playing on the perimeter or knocking down shots or this or that. He's going to play in the block a lot more. And I think he's, and he'll be a help side, shot blocker. And I think like that's going to be fine for him.
Yeah. And meanwhile, you still got these, 4 or 5 years ahead where he's just going to be still doing this thing here. Could he win another MVP? They'll certainly be in play to win the East again, depending on how things shake out in Brooklyn. Like party's just going to keep going out there. Everybody's signed. So that's going to be a serious roadblock for the Celtics here. They've had trouble with that team in recent years, going back to that 2019 series. So, I don't think this is like a LeBron Cleveland situation per se, but it's getting there.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We will see.
How do you guard him?
Well, you kind of play him straight up because he can't. You can actually see a slight decline in his ability to just 2-3 years ago when they played the Celtics and they wiped him out. Nobody could stay in front of him. People can now. Like Jay Crowder was able to keep him in front of him a little bit better.
He just fouls his head off.
Yeah, he still got his, but I feel like he was impossible a couple of years ago. Impossible. And now it looks like he's kind of plowing into people a little bit more than he was. So already a little bit he's, because he's gotten even bigger and even bit more physical. And I know he's only 26, but he's 8 years in the league. Not saying he's past his physical prime, but I felt like he was more freakish a couple of years ago. I don't know if you guys agree.
I know this is as freakish as it's gotten for me.
I thought he was more complete this year. I thought he was more complete, certainly in the playoffs. But just in terms of like and he still can do it. But he was just
how about that Game 4 alley-oop. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. It feels like the only thing left he can't do is that 3.
But he hit a couple ones, I don't know, like he's not afraid to take that,
he was 18% in the playoffs. Yeah, but that's who knows? Maybe he'll add that at one point, maybe he doesn't. But I think this run showed he doesn't necessarily need it.
Right.
But man, is there apology cam time? Is he boring anymore, John? That was you and Jimmy's line.
I mean, look,
that 50-point performance, a little exciting, right?
Our critique was that he's a boring offensive player because he doesn't do the shimmy shake, the step back. He's not.
Tatum does.
He's a little bit of bully ball, which again, I find the way he gets most of his points to not be like get you out of your seat stuff. That being said, it's hard not to see him do it in that moment, on that stage with that much pressure and that much attention, and do what he did. And again, he made 17, 18 free throws out of his face. It was classic Giannis of like, I'm going to go and I'm probably going to get fouled a lot. The same thing to the Karl Malone thing. I hated watching Karl Malone because all he'd do is friggin' draw. He was a big guy. It was hard to not foul him. Giannis is kind of that same sort of guy. Yeah. Big guy, hard to not foul. I find
he was dribble from the perimeter, right? Like Malone could take you down. So like you were bound to foul him, and he would take the longest at the free throw line.
Yeah.
So it's just
same thing. He'd roll it, and he would taunt the crowd. He would wait until the 10-second count.
Yeah, and then he would. I think he said the name of his kids, right? He had some kind of ritual. He had this whole ritual, so like you couldn't disrupt it. He obviously was going to take his time every time.
I'll tell you that evolution from that chant in Brooklyn in round 2 to, what was it, 17 for 19 last night?
Unreal.
I mean, like the way he just looked dead and it looked like you could hack him out of games to start these playoffs to that. I mean, he just was so persistent, and you do talk about that mindset, John. It's a high bar, but a guy like Tatum can get to that level of persistence and determination to improve. I've never seen a motor like his.
Yeah. And that's the thing that the thing they talked about most is, we dogged Tatum and Brown a little bit this season for taking that superstar leap statistically, but seeing their effort wane in other parts of their game, not giving the 48-minute effort, and not going all out on the defensive end nearly as much. Certainly Jalen took a step back in that regard. And Bobby, you kept making the point, which is a legit one. It's hard for a superstar player. Even Durant said it during the playoffs. It's hard to do what you do on offense and then go back and give everything you have on defense as well. You can't be that guy on both ends. Giannis was that guy on both ends.
And he just kept digging deeper and deeper and making those biggest plays at the end of the game.
One of the greatest blocks ever, man. That was wild.
Nobody does that. Yeah. Like that kind of effort for 48 minutes on both ends I don't think it's sustainable for a career, but it's obviously what got him a title here. So it's worth it. But that's how he plays. It's insane.
That was special.
He smelled blood too. Like you gotta give him props for that. Like he smelled blood and he went for the kill. Like that was
Bobby, 45 for you. Here we go.
That's what superstars are made of. You know what I mean? Like that's a kind of performance where you're at home, the trophy's in the building, and you're like, that's it. This is it. I'm closing this out. There's no way Phoenix is going
back. That was great too. Yeah, they didn't want to get to that game 7. Yeah,
right. They didn't want to go back, and Phoenix stayed with them. But down the stretch, again, Giannis on both ends. Yeah, it's incredible. You got to give him his due, give him his flowers, if you will.
No, it's great. And we talked about the origins, and somebody here puts it out here. I mean, it's you don't want to give it all, just because of that, but you get to know a little bit about a person and his story. And it's hard not to say that didn't have massive impact. And you made that AAU point, Josue. It's a great point.
Isn't it weird too that there's
you're a star, you're treated like a star from the age of 11, and like you're already a friggin', million.
You're getting stopped in the streets, John. I mean, like, let's face it. People who are really into AAU, like, that whole culture is it's a vibe. So if you have a tournament somewhere, like, you're getting stopped in the streets. Some of these guys, 14, 15. Imagine once you reach that point, that's just the way they're groomed.
You know what I love too, and that like I just quipped at you, John, there about some of the things you've said in the past, but there really is that vocal minority who doesn't love Giannis's game, and it's really like even during the finals, you heard people saying like, "Oh, Chris Middleton's the real MVP because he's shooting in crunch time." The hate that he receives is unfathomable, and man, shove it back in James Harden's face the way he did with this, I love that. Remember the things Harden said about him, and like him just having like a fake game because he doesn't have a bag or whatever it was. Like that was great, and PJ Tucker being able to win it after all that went on in Houston there. I love it. Like, there's nothing you can say about him now. There really isn't.
No, and that stuff to me is just lazy, NBA narratives. You look, we've been doing this now for a couple of years straight. You can't change your mind every friggin' day. It's okay. Your opinions change because people change them for you is a different story. But to jump all over one narrative to the next is just lazy media bullshit. This whole Middleton's the real guy is so dumb. Middleton's a shot maker, and sometimes you need someone who can make shots because it's hard.
He had a great series, but
Giannis's points are harder to come by. But are you kidding? These guys have been playing together for 8 friggin' years, and all of a sudden you decided in one game that Middleton's the guy. What are you watching? He's a 2-time MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year, and that this guy is the guy. Come on,
in crunch time, yeah.
It's so dumb. Yes, every once in a while, Ray Allen hit big shots. It was. Oh, Ray Allen's really the best player on the Celtics. No, he just hit a friggin' big shot because he's capable of it. That's what he does. He shoots.
That's his role, yeah.
One thing to the other. So lazy. It's so lazy. But that's also why I don't overdo. I'm not going to overdo it because they won either. This was a singular moment, and a lot of things have to go right in order for that to happen. I'm not saying it's a cheap win, but it's a weird year, and you had, tons of injuries. And like I said, Brooklyn honestly probably beats them, almost beat them anyway without the injuries there. And it's a different story. So I'm not going to say everything you've ever said bad about Giannis is gone either, but he won over a lot of friggin'. You
can break through with some breaks, and that's why you got to feel good if you're the Celtics.
Everybody gets breaks, right?
They do have the talent here. They have to figure out the roster. Yeah. The young guys have to figure out what they got to do to get to the next level. Yeah. But they have the guys. They have the core, and that's what's most important here. It's everything else has to be figured out around it. And then maybe you catch an injury break against Brooklyn, and all of a sudden you're playing in Atlanta in these finals, and it becomes a little bit easier at that point. But every team that's won has caught breaks. They really have.
Yep. It's again.
Definitely Celtics.
Right.
Celtics, they'll go the other way.
Yeah.
They're the break for other teams.
So we're going to head over in a little bit to Green Room just for a short while, guys, just because we haven't heard from you guys.
I'm excited to hear Josue's thoughts on Lillard. We didn't really get to that, so we'll fire away with that.
Let's get into that. I've definitely gone back and forth with it.
Yeah, you and Max had a good episode there on that. Max is pumped about the possibility of adding him.
I'll explain all that for sure.
We did some finals here. We did a little bit of comedy with JL Cauvin, which again I want to remind everybody one more time before we go. We will focus mainly. Because I know that's everyone's bread and butter. We will focus mainly on the Celtics offseason, which officially has begun. There's important dates coming. There's TPEs coming and going that are going to expire. There's the all-important 45 pick. Free agency starts days after that. The one thing is we've been talking about what the Celtics are going to do. And again, I'm putting on the screen here, citywinery.com/Boston. Buy your tickets to see JL Cauvin Monday at 8. Anybody who wasn't here, JL Cauvin, stand-up comedian, Trump impersonator, does a podcast on CLNS Media Network. He's wildly popular, extremely funny. This is like a comedian's comedian. Every single funny person on Twitter follows JL, retweets his stuff. He's just one of those guys that, if you don't know about him, you will eventually, or you should. So definitely go check him out, see him Monday. I've said this again. We will be there. Garden Report crew is going to go hang out. You get to, if you feel like it, you can come hang out with us. You can heckle us. You can roast us. Just don't do it during the show. Show JL respect, then you can come tell me.
I'm excited to sip some wine. I hope that's not just a name.
You can then come tell me
cards right,
shit.
Fans. Yeah. Maybe one of us will buy you a glass. We'll see.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, so do that there for sure. But yeah, the Celtics stuff, it's coming, right? I mean, ton of stuff.
One week from tomorrow is the draft.
1 week from tomorrow is the draft. We're gonna do a show draft night, whether they have a pick or not, because you don't know if there's going to be movement or anything else that happens there. So we'll probably do something at the end of the first round, unless the Celtics trade in, leading up to their 45th pick, and Bobby will gush all over it. He'll give you his big board.
We'll have a mock draft early next week.
We'll do a mock draft.
Second
We'll do some
round
stuff.
only. Second round only.
Yes.
I'm a little bummed. I'm not going to lie. I know they had to do this to get rid of Kemba, but, taking those lottery tickets and those flyers and, picking
Listen, you just do it in the second round
I'm
now,
done.
and there's much less pressure in that spot.
It's not the same thing, and I'm done with these projects, if you will. Okay, got all the problem. We've seen these. We've seen the Celtics plant these seeds. I'm ready to watch them grow. I'm tired of seeing the planting process. I don't want to see some more new seeds.
I don't want to see the planting process as much
new
as
seeds.
What I will tell people, and Bobby's probably going to be very excited about this, I don't think the Celtics are going to be drafting very much in the next couple of years, because in order to the only way you're doing any trades now is by trading picks, and that includes TPEs. So, like, if you want to get a player, like, for example, everyone's throwing out a name like Nance, as a TPE candidate, like,
first rounder.
That means you got to flip a first-round pick too. So, like, if you're going to get anything real with the $11 million TPE that's left, or Cantor's $5 million, not Cantor's 5 as much, but for that, you're going to have to tie a pick into that as well. If you're going to try to get any other player and roll some of your players together with that, that's also going to cost you picks. So if there's any,
that's ultimately the best way to do it. Yeah.
If there's any movement at all, that means next year. And again, that's why they made the trade now for Horford, because they needed the flexibility to trade next year's pick again. That can happen after the draft when they look to kind of cash in that TPE. So, Josue, I think you're going to get your wish. I don't think they're drafting anybody.
Come on, don't tell. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. No.
I don't think they're drafting
We won't
anybody.
be thinking about a first round until 2027.
Yeah. So, yeah. So,
I wish. That's good. That's good.
Oh, that's not locker room anymore.
No, I almost said that earlier.
Green room.
I feel better about it.
It's Green Room. Join us on Spotify Green Room. We're about to do it over there.
Let's get some questions going.
The link is in the chat, so you guys can jump in there and let us know what's going on. We're all going to head over right now. It is open, I believe. My phone was charging. Bobby, Josue, why don't you guys run in there?
Let's do it.
I'm telling everybody, we're trying to keep it to 30 or 45 minutes tonight, guys. We're going to keep it short, but we do want to hear from you guys because we haven't heard from you in a little bit.
And Josue's gone. He's already on his way.
I'm grabbing my AirPods, Bobby. All right.
Josue's going to fire us up.
Showing everyone the process here. There we go.
Yeah, that's how it works. I got to get mine as well. And my phone was so low on juice here.
Let's do it. Yeah. You know what? I might break out some wine. You know what? You guys got to think about wine.
That's got an Italian bottle over here.
That's not a terrible idea.
Does Greece make wine, John? I was curious last week.
Does Greece make wine?
I haven't had one.
Oh no, I've seen those. I've never been, but I've seen the.
You're gonna have to recommend me
one.
Who
do you think invented stomping grapes, Bobby?
Hey, I haven't had a bottle, so
I'll tell you this.
Sending me your list.
Greeks are terrible at marketing their own shit. Like they're like the 7th biggest olive oil distributor in the world. Because they're just,
I know Spain's got them beat on the image there, and Italy
so far behind on that. France, even they're so far behind on the stuff that they're good at. Yogurt, it took them freaking forever to realize that people like that shit. Like, get it out there, guys.
Especially that Greek. What was it? Greek yogurt era, where like everyone was like, stop eating regular yogurt. It's still here,
but like you let the world.
True. It still is, but early like 2010s, like that was a thing. Like
you
everyone was like, no,
fucking Dannon for regular yogurt. Years. Get that shit, get it out there, guys. Honey, nobody knows this. Honey, oh my god, unreal. There's
that's big in our culture.
It's just not as available. You have to go to like a specialty store to get it, which you can. So. Which you can. Sophia's in Belmont. That's a good spot. Maybe the best yogurt you're gonna find. So go check that out for sure. Let's head over to Green Room, Spotify Green Room. We are on our way, guys. We'll see you there. Thanks for joining us tonight.